Hey guys, I'm Jake, and it can be hard when hiking a 14er to know exactly what to bring. It's easy to bring too little or too much. So today I'm going to be going over what I bring. Before we look at the gear, this is what I'm bringing on a more non-technical day hike in the summertime. Some of these 14ers are more technical than others and require specialized equipment. Also, shoulder seasons may change your equipment needs. For example, in the springtime, oftentimes you do need an ice axe and crampons for snow travel. So before you climb any 14er or any big peak, make sure you understand the conditions, the weather, and what the route entails. In terms of philosophy, I like to pack very light and efficiently. Most of Colorado's 14ers are pretty basic day hikes. There's definitely exceptions, and you can definitely take routes to spice things up a little. But for the majority of 14ers, I like to keep things light, minimal, so I can move quickly and be safe on the trail. I will say that I have a lot of experience on technical climbs and in the mountains, so I have really dialed down the gear to exactly what I need. A lot of people tend to bring more stuff and pack a little more conservatively, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's all about your individual level of comfort and the right gear for you and for the given trip. To start our gear discussion, let's talk clothing from the bottom up. When I'm hiking a 14er, I am always wearing trail runners. I am definitely team trail runner. I don't need extra ankle support. I like that they're light, I can move quickly, I can run when I need to. These are the Topo Terra Adventure 3. They have a wide-toed box, great rubber, and I've been using these for a few years now and absolutely love them. Next, for pants, I keep it simple. I like Lululemon shorts, but really any short or long pants that work for you that's comfortable is perfect. But for tops, I am definitely a sun hoodie guy. You'll notice every video I've ever made almost, I'm wearing this Patagonia sun hoodie. This green sun hoodie is just the staple of my hiking clothing. Keeps the sun off me, keeps me cool. I have the hood when needed. I learned the hard way that trying to keep sunscreened up and long days in the mountains is something that I just don't do. I tend to move quickly and just never break enough to put on sunscreen. So having the sun hoodie on and a little bit of sunscreen on my legs maybe before moving is all that I need. Above that, I will often have a very light base layer if it's chilly in the morning. As you guys know, a lot of 14ers, you're starting at 3, 4 a.m. and often there's a little bit of nippiness to the air, so I'll usually have a light kind of fleece layer above my sun hoodie. And then I will always, no matter what, have a rain shell with me, or if it's the winter or shoulder seasons, a little bit thicker, more wintry shell. This one is, I think, a black diamond one. And basically any good raincoat will do. This is super essential because on any 14 or high mountain, the weather changes rapidly, a wind can pick up, and this is just gonna be your best friend so many times. Finally, I always have sunglasses on me, preferably polarized glasses that sit on my head well while running and moving quickly. These are for Valin. Got kind of an aviator feel. They're new and they've been working great so far. Before moving on to packs, I do want to say that depending on the weather, I will bring a down puffy, I will bring a beanie, gloves, and other things. That's definitely dependent on the climb, the time of the year, and what the weather's looking like. But when in doubt, if you think you're going to be chilly, a pair of gloves and a hat definitely go a long ways. In terms of backpacks, I think anywhere between 8 and 20 liters is the sweet spot for a Colorado 14er day hike. The first backpack I use a lot is my Osprey Daylight. I think this is like 11 or 13 liters. I've had it forever. It always gets the job done and definitely is perfect for those hikes where I have less gear. More recently, I've switched to this Black Diamond Nitro 22 pack. I decided to get something bigger than the Osprey Daylight because I was bringing a bunch of camera gear and just needed a little bit more space for tripods, the camera, a drone, all that stuff. So this backpack I've never had quite full. I think the 22 liters is a little bit bigger than I usually need. It's definitely been an amazing pack. It runs really well. For those days I need a little bit more stuff with me. I do not have one here, but I think the best backpack for most Colorado 14ers is like an 8 to 12 liter running vest. That's what I would be using if I wasn't hauling up camera gear, fishing gear, anything like that. It just travels better, it runs better, and that's really all you need for a majority of these climbs. Alongside the backpacks, let's talk about hydration. I like a bladder. This is an Osprey 2-liter bladder that I bring with both of those packs that I showed. The reason I like a bladder is I like to be able to drink on the go and not have to stop to get a bottle out. I think that a soft flask in the front of a running vest is another thing that works really well for this. I tend to not stop very often, so being able to drink on the go keeps me better hydrated. For 14ers, I tend to need anywhere between 2 and 4 liters of water, depending on the length of the day. But for most of my climbs, I'll bring the 2-liter bladder along this half-liter Nalgene that I have filled with electrolyte powder when I start my climb, and I will also refill with electrolytes as needed. This 2.5 liters has been the sweet spot for almost all my climbs. I like having the pure water in my bladder and then having this as my dedicated bottle for flavored electrolyte powders. I will also try to hydrate as much as I can on the way to my climb, just so I start my climb hydrated. In terms of electrolyte powders, any work, but I tend to use Liquid IV because I buy it in Costco in bulk. And I love to have something with a little caffeine for that extra boost, and tend to use the Noon Sport Tabs because they're small and they give me that little extra jolt when needed. In terms of food for a 14er, I'll basically bring a sandwich, like a PB&J, along with an assortment of bars. Some of my personal favorites is I love these Honey Stinger waffles. These are amazing. And any bar or candy that you personally like. I don't know about you, but when I get above 13,000 feet, I have no appetite. So I'll try to eat my sandwich or bigger meal as early as I can when I'm a little lower in elevation, and then keep these bars and easy to eat things like a candy for when I get up higher on the summit. In terms of the other miscellaneous things in my pack, I'll sometimes have a little bottle of sunscreen with me, not this one, but with the sun hoodie, I tend to actually to sunscreen up before I leave the car and call it good for the day, hence why I have the bigger one. I'll also bring a very small first aid kit. This is very minimal and it just really has things for blisters like Band-Aids, has some duct tape and something for stitches if anything's more serious. Not too much in here, but just enough to get you down to the car if needed. One thing I don't often bring, but for some climbs makes sense, is a water filtration to keep your weight down on your pack and bring less water. I tend to just like to bring all my water with me to not deal with getting water, as well as kind of the lower flow rate using something like a Sawyer Squeeze. So I'll usually just make the weight sacrifice, but certain climbs, this is really nice to have to keep the pack weight down. Next, we have a headlamp. Like we said earlier, a lot of these climbs are starting off in the dark or ending in the dark. I don't bring this on a shorter climb where I know I'm not dealing with it, but it's always good to have a headlamp, especially if something goes wrong and you need it at the evening. This one is the Black Diamond Spot. Been a great headlamp. I do wish it was rechargeable, but it is what I have for now. When it breaks, I'll probably get a rechargeable one. So that's all the little things I bring on almost all my typical day hikes. I do love having an ultralight stuff sack, especially if you have a bag with not a lot of organization to shove all your snacks and stuff into to make it easier to grab out. The other thing I'll bring on all my climbs is camera gear, which I haven't shown here, but would like to do a video at some point in the future of what I'm bringing there. And I will also bring maybe a fishing pole if I'm going past any lakewood trout, because when in Rome, why not? Some other things you might want to bring is a SOS kind of communication device, like a Garmin InReach. I don't have one, but if you have one, might as well bring it. Most of the 14ers, there's a ton of people, so probably not necessary, but if you do have one, might as well bring it along, and you might be able to save someone else too. Some other things you might want to consider is something like an emergency blanket or a little shelter, a lighter, or some kind of fire starter. On most Colorado 14ers, I don't think these are necessary and worth their weight in your pack. But if you're doing a climb that's more remote, or in the seasons where you might not see anybody there for a day or two, it might be worth having those as kind of safety precautions. So that's all the gear that I'm bringing on a Colorado 14er, or really any longer day hike. Let me know if there's any gear you think I'm missing in the description, or something that you're bringing. And like I said, everyone has their own comfort with gear amounts, and this is what I personally have found to be optimal for me. And with that, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you on that next adventure.